Last episode, tinalakay natin ang proseso at halaga ng produksyon ng personal protective equipment sa ating ekonomiya. Ituloy natin ang usapang #pandemic economics dito sa ATC TV.
I think Kuya Ross, also na-address na rin niya yung question natin regarding imports and exports. Since may kinalaman siya dun sa production, sa local production ng PPEs. Siguro ang magiging question ko na lang, since na-introduce niyo na po yung exports and imports and yung affected dun sa price ng PPE sets. Siguro ang magiging question ko na lang is regarding dun sa choice ng government to buy from to import PPEs rather than to parang mag-rely dun sa ating local producers, since ang alam ko nagkakaroon ng issue regarding sa prices na medyo overpriced daw yung from China compared sa Philippines. So what can you say about it po?
You know, like in econ, we have this thing called specificity rule. So the specificity rule basically talks about like you have to address the specific problem, not just like the problems related to it. So, for example, there's a corruption like issue with the import of PPEs. But then you also have to consider that like PPEs, especially from China, where you also like, as I said naman, diba, yung material mismo, it comes from China. So like intuitively, production of PPEs in China, like with that same material, would be cheaper. So, yeah, you have to address this specific issue. Like, if corruption is the issue, then address the corruption. But I guess you can't, like, invalidate the benefits you get from trade. Like, if it's cheaper talaga, if it's faster, it's medical grade, like, wouldn't that be better for society in general? And with regards naman to the issue of the local producers na bigla silang nawala ng business, well, it's a solution, diba? Na parang magkaka-income yung local producers. But there's also like other like ways to provide for these businesses. So you can provide loans, you can provide grants. But then the problem again there is parang like in our experience talaga, like the bureaucracy was really hard, like just to get a grant for like the company, like the workers. So parang I guess it's really weighing it. Na parang yun kasi yung problem with mixing like economics with actual conduct of public policy. Your assumptions, like even the benefits of trade, like there's a time dimension pa to it na like okay, we say na mas mura eh. So like we should just import ganyan. But then ayun, it's like there's the corruption thing and there's the local producer thing. So, ang dami kong napuntahan na angles. So, I guess really is parang good governance, like whatever your choice may be, would like be the key determinant to your outcomes. So, I guess what I really wanted to say na lang is parang industrialization is like it's really like a very heated issue pa rin up to now, especially like with economists and like interest groups, like even with with the farmers, diba? Parang trade is always being brought up. And I guess as economists kasi we have to really empathize then with them kasi yun nga, that's always a problem with economics eh. The theory is not always the same as practice kasi with practice, ang dami pang politics na mangyayari, ang dami pang bureaucracy na pagdadaanan, so ang daming opportunities for corruption. So, ang daming distortions dun sa market, so you don't really get the optimal outcomes. So, I guess the industrialization na pinupush natin, it's something that we have to remember, it would be better, like, it would be better tackled in the long run. Kasi, like, if you think about it, kuwari, ngayon, like, we talk about protective suits. Like, not all can shift readily to producing protective suits. And, like, assuming everyone can shift readily to protective suits. I don't have the data right now, but given the current distribution between the sectors, we won't be able to supply for the entire market. We would still have to import. So, ayun. I guess the key thing is really like to really be vigilant in what the government does. And sadly, the government is, some members of the government are using the pandemic as a veil and like as a distraction for us and for them to like really do corrupt stuff, which is like really disheartening, especially in this time. Yeah.
Actually, just kind of like a side thing, I wanted to ask po, yung sa donation drives kanina, hanggang saan yung lawak nung scope nyo? Like, mostly Metro Manila lang ba, or were you able to like reach the other parts of the Philippines then?
Okay, so I made a post about it, and I don't have a complete list of the hospitals, but my ad hoc team, we really just targeted Metro Manila hospitals first, kasi it was really the time na the hotspot of COVID was in Metro Manila, so we targeted the public hospitals. Then we reached out then to some hospitals in Rizal and in Bulacan, kasi we had to consider then the network, like if you had contact persons na we would be able to coordinate with para mabilis ma-deliver yung PPEs, and like alam namin na mapupunta sila dun sa medical frontliners.
I see. Sorry, this is just really interesting for me because right now I'm taking
Okay.
urban economics, Econ 1 and 6. And it's really interesting because one part of urban economics is the thing about urbanization or industrialization, I guess, is that again, so like from rural na medyo, yeah, yung the idea is like rural tapos very medyo layo from the city. Tapos, and then you mentioned yung from like being able to reach the certain areas like Rizal and Bulacan, and kasi may contact dun. So like it was really interesting for me kasi parang they're fairly more developed compared to the really remote areas that we can't reach. And in part na din kasi yung sa quote-unquote urbanization na parang medyo mahirap kasi since it's really the pandemic and it's not like we can travel easily. Tapos, aside from that, it's not like mahirap then, especially we don't really know if like may mga nangangailangan ba doon sa remote areas na yon. Tapos, like how can we contact them, since like given all these things, like ayun. Some things that I wanted to think about na parang how is it that like how can we really reach out to those that may need, but we couldn't hear that they needed stuff pala. Well, that's really just a me question, not necessarily.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
if you want, yeah, because like very interesting to think about. Like, the government really does want to think about like if it I guess in theory, since it's prioritizing yung prices, we can say that it's kind of prioritizing like giving access to the people na yung mga nangangailangan. But then like for me is talaga bang nakukuha ng mga nangangailangan yung kailangan nilang gamit? Yun lang yung para sa akin. So I don't know if you want to add to that. That's just a me thing.
Yeah, it's okay. Kasi what we did, I'm gonna speak from my experience na lang. So, background pala, I'm from Bulacan. So, I was in Bulacan while all of this was happening. So, being an org person in college, I really just reached out to my network. And I guess we have this notion, diba? Like, in economics. na the market knows what it wants. So, like, although like not explicitly like being the market, like reaching out to civil society groups which like have hand on ground, like we have people on ground, parang it made it easier like to connect with them. Kasi we have to admit our local governments are like limited in their capacity rin. And I guess in the future, if we really like want to make the response more immediate, more efficient, we have to empower then the local government units. Kasi parang ang nangyari talaga ngayon in the pandemic, especially if you observe yung nangyari sa Metro Manila, and that's Metro Manila pa lang na parang pinasa nila sa city governments lahat ng nangyayari. So everything was not coordinated like at the start, which made it messy for everyone and for the economy. So I guess if the government wants to do that, the government should empower the local government units. Kasi parang ang labo lang na like ang may capacity talaga government, but then ipapasa mo sa local, tapos hindi mo naman siya empower. So I guess to address those inequalities between urban and rural economy, you must like really like fix the institutions, rationalize it even. So did I answer your questions or curiosities ba?
I think you did know info. So it really has to be kind of it has to come from those in power, I guess, and then kind of help the really smaller sectors na din, I guess.
Yeah. Kasi policy makers and experts like have this debate na parang we're not spending enough like in the Philippines, and to some extent I agree kasi like coming from experience, parang kulang pa rin ginagawa ng gobyerno. And but what I have to add is we have to make the quality rin of like the aid given by government really like better. Kasi yun, walang kwenta yung size. Like no matter how much money you have, if the people can't access it because of the bureaucracy, like admittedly, we don't have like the data. Like, so parang there's that fear, but then economists pressuring us na, hey, the debt to GDP ratio is kind of fine, like that's kind of better pa than other countries. But then you can't blame normal Filipinos like not having to trust the government kasi they don't feel it. So yun.
Yeah, and then I guess that in turn kind of affects yung expectations na din. Of like in terms of like expectations in terms of like economic terms, I guess, not just like expectations of government. Yeah. So I think that's all from me though. Do you have any other questions, Hannah?
Ako, siguro parang kind of a reflection lang dun sa discussion na to, na it's good to emphasize na kailangan nating empower yung each other. And katulad ng donation drives na sinagawa ni Kuya Ross, meron din tayong role to uplift each other. Pero we need to call for government's action and good governance. Kasi side by side dapat siya.
Yeah. So add ko na lang din kasi parang I think very untapped yung civil society groups sa Philippines. And if meron man, parang doon mo malilink yung mga corruption na nangyayari. Kasi if you remember, like growing up as kids, we saw this parang pork barrel scam where NGOs, bogus NGOs, like they were given like budgets. Yung Congress kasi, yung House of Reps kasi medyo ano na sila, parang medyo distant sila sa local communities. Kasi parang like, for me, like I don't know anything my congressman does, but ayun, I guess we have to like institutionalize like really working with civil society groups kasi yun, sayang yung potential. And as you can see naman, admittedly, it's the youth organizations that really stepped up and like coordinating with the private sector to collect aid. And yun, like even though na super disappointing ng government, I have hope na like we really have good people here in the Philippines kasi like those initiatives, they prove our potential for really making government good. Eh. So sayang, pero laban lang.
Yes, laban lang.
Kwentuhang ETC na naman sa susunod na episode.
Now we want to ask about your experiences of being an ETC member or how it
Okay.
Anong natutunan ni Kuya Ross sa pagiging ETCer niya? Abangan dito sa ETC CV.